Good morning, team. What I'm going to do right now is walk you through a Contra form, the proper way to do it, the things that need to match up, and how to effectively send it in so there's no back and forth with our head office team here. As you can see, I'm on my Microsoft Outlook Express. The way to get to the Contra form is going through the public folders. I'll show you how to get to that pretty simply. This might look different for everybody. You might have VPN, you might have webmail, but you can always get to the public folders. This is just how mine looks. So public folders, go down, go into all public folders. Make sure you're expanding them with this little plus button and not the actual folder. So expand Rogers Media, going down into TV listings, expand that. And then this is listed in everyday documents. So Naveed and we try and update these other folders as much as possible whenever we put an additional research piece in, whenever we're putting a new media kit for sports news, we add this in and we try and send an email to the entire team. The Contra forms are located in everyday documents. There are about 25 folders here, a lot of good stuff in them. The Contra form is in Contra documents. So click into Contra documents. There are 5 posts or 5 emails here. These are a little bit older. They're Contra cheat sheets, Contra procedures, Contra form instructions. These are the 2 that are important, both posted by Naveed. I've made them unread, quote unquote, just so you can get a sense of them. The Contra usage form, which is a new thing that we're going to need to start filling out. I'll get into that in more detail in a couple moments. The Contra template is right here, posted in July, but we've updated it since then. Naveed obviously put here, please use this version. As you can see, it's vital that we use this version here. I know a lot of reps out there, you have had clients who have done Contra for 4, 5, 6 years, and you're used to using the same form year after year that you have saved on your desktop or in a folder. That can't happen anymore. We need to use this form. We need to start fresh because all the other forms are out of date. They're older, and I'll show you in a second why it wouldn't work. So what we do is we click this, double click, and open. So the first things you want to do when you open this Contra form, the most important thing where all the issues are stemming from these days is you need to enable macros. So it might look different. This is Excel '07, but everyone has the option up here to enable macros. So what I do on this, very simply, we click Options, and then it says macros and ActiveX, and we need to enable this content. This is going to make it clickable for everything. This is going to make it so you're able to email it forward to Sandro and down the chain. So we need to go to enable this content, make sure that's clicked, and press OK. That security option will go away, and now you'll be left with a clean Contra form here. And the second thing you want to do is go into your Save As and save this Excel workbook. So you can save it under My Documents. You can save it under any folder you have, and you can save it under a name. What I like to do is put the date before it. So I go 2012 underscore 10 underscore 18. So 2012 October 18th underscore, and then the client's name. I'm going to do a mock one for you here. I'm going to name it Joe's Restaurant, and then underscore Contra template. So that's the way I do everything. I don't name it anything generic. This is the simplest way to do it, and when I look at my files later, I can see exactly what it is. Everyone has their own way of doing it. That's just my way of doing it. And what I want to do is press save. I'm not going to save this one because it's a mock form, but you always want to save it before you get started. So let's go back here. So as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tabs on the bottom here. You don't want to worry yourself with any of the first 7. The most important one, the only one you want to worry about is the entry tab. That said, I'm going to go through this data tab really quickly. As you can see, there's a lot of pre-registered names, pre-registered emails in here. You don't want to touch any of them. You don't want to enter your own email in here. You don't want to be, for example, recipient number 7. These are preset and they shouldn't be touched. As I said, you don't want to use your previous Contra forms that you've filled out before because these are all going to be different. For example, Alex Bilton, she's our business manager that's approving these now. It used to be Melanie Lee. Melanie Lee is no longer on these forms in this position. She gets them at the end. right here, but she's not in this position here. So you do not want to use a form that has Melanie Lee's name on it there. Once again, Derek Bergheis as well is a new final approval instead of Paul Ski. We don't want these forms going to Paul Ski anymore. So don't use old forms. Always use the one that is in our public folders, the Contra template, the new one. So please use this version. Please do not use any old versions. I cannot stress that enough. So once we get to this point, we've enabled macros, we've saved it under My Documents. What you want to go do is go into the Entry tab. So the Entry tab over here, this is the tab that you want to fill out all your information in. Don't touch any of these other tabs. Don't go into authorization. You don't want to start entering information in here, because what happens is if you're in the entry tab and you, for example, let's just take an address and put some characters in there, it automatically populates into all the other tabs. So you see that? I put it into the entry tab. I typed in a bunch of characters, and all of a sudden it's into the authorization tab. So you don't want to automatically be putting stuff in here. You don't want to be touching the client agreement letter and putting phone numbers and facts. As you can see, it automatically populates there too. So only touch the entry tab, only enter stuff, all the data in the entry tab, no manual info in any of the other tabs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over an example client. This client doesn't exist. I'm just doing it for everyone's good here, and we'll see how a true Contra template is done. So account manager, I'm going to do myself here. Account manager email address. Even though it says optional, please put it in there. You'll be on all the requests. So I'm going to put my email address. And just in that way, I'll be on the alerts, and I'll be on that final approval. Contra request by, put my name in there. Select station. So if you scroll up here, TV listings, advertising, sales is an option. If it's for sports news, you're going to have to manually enter sports news. That said, I'm going to use TV listings, advertising, sales just for simplicity. Date, month, day, year. You can type it in this fashion, so 10, 18, 20, 12, and that'll work. It's going to turn into October 18th, 2012. The system does that automatically. I can also put October 18th, 2012, and it'll turn it into 2012 as long as there's a date in there. As long as you're not getting a whole bunch of characters like this, then you're good to go, and it'll say retry, and you have to put it in the correct format. So if you ever get this incorrect date format or incorrect or an error message going up there, just follow exactly how it's supposed to go in. So in this case, it says month, day, year. I'll go 18, and then it'll change like that. Fairly simple, but you just want to make sure that all the way up and down here, you're following the same month, day, year template. Going to Contra agreement number. This is required. This is the contract number. So the physical contract you submit, this has to be match up to the same number. Now, importantly, you need to have a broadcast order or contract signed and filled out and completed by the client before you start a Contra form. You don't want to enter a Contra form, have it go through the process of approval, and then your client not agree to it. So you need a signed contract before you start this Contra form. I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not going to be your Contra agreement number, but that's just a mock example. But this has to be in, and it has to be your contract has to be completed before you enter that. Going forward, company name. This is all important to fill out. Very easy stuff, but you need to make sure that this is filled out at all times. Don't leave any of these blank, and in a situation like this where it's a city, province, postal code, don't leave anything out. So in that case, I didn't leave the postal code out. I have the province in there. I have the city in there. I'm filling everything out fully. Contact name, just put Joe Smith, and same thing. These are obviously fake numbers, but I'm just putting them in, making sure everything's filled out, because if we go into the authorization where it's automatically populating, everywhere needs to be filled out, and that'll be done by filling everything out in entry. So client GST HST number, most clients will have an HST number. This is important to put in. Usually it's a 9-digit number. So it usually goes like that, 5 numbers dash 4 numbers, but you need to get this from your client. It's important when accounting and credit are doing HST comparisons and filling these out for the government. You need to have an HST number or a client number there. Now we get into the meat and potatoes of the Contra form here. This is all fairly generic information. Description of goods, services to be received. You need to fill out exactly what's being received. It's not enough if this is a restaurant, I can't put food vouchers. That's not clear enough. That's not going to be giving any detail as to what we're receiving in relation to the airtime. Some food vouchers is just very vague, and the form will be sent back to you, and you'll be asked to put a better description in. So be as detailed, as clear as possible. Say who's going to be getting it and what it is. So in this case, I'm going to say 10 $100 gift certificates for client lunches, dinners. This is very specific. I'm saying exactly what we're getting. We're getting 10 $100 gift certificates, and they're going to be used, even put used in there, used for client lunches and dinners, or even to be used. In that case, it's very easy. It's saying 10 $100 gift certificates to be used for client lunches and dinners. They're not used for personal, they're not used for anything other than other clients. So in that case, that'd be perfect. Everyone will say, okay, we understand what these are for, and moving on. So value of goods and services, let's just say, well, 10 $100 gift certificates, that's $1,000. See how I just type in 1,000 there, and it's going to automatically populate with the dollar sign and the cents. So I didn't do that myself. I just go 1,000, and it does it on its own. GST, HST amount on above, obviously it's 13%, so it's 113. For more complicated numbers, I'll show you how to get to that. It's very important that you get the correct HST on the value. We've had a few forms recently where the HST has been different or has been wrong, and once again we're going to have to send those back to you, and you're going to have to redo them. So the way to get the HST, very easy. I'm just going to pull up the calculator here. So $1,000, so I'm going to put 1,000. I'm going to times that by 0.13, so 13%, equals 130. So 130, and there you go. If it's a more complicated number, let's say it's 2567 for Contra, you're going to just times that by 0.13, and you get the HST there. So in this case, it's easy on $1,000, but if it's a little more complicated, always just pull out the calculator, get the correct number in there. There's no you can't round. It can't be to the nearest dollar. It has to be exact. So we'll close that 130. Usage expiry. So if it's, for example, a golf course you're dealing with this Contra, golf courses usually have the rule that you need to use the vouchers by the end of the year. So if there's an actual usage expiry date on the card, you need to put the exact date in there. If these food vouchers, let's say, were good until the end of 2012, you'd have to put 12/31/2012. So December 31st, 2012. That said, if there isn't usage expire date, if you can use these forever, just put a date far enough in the future that you know you're going to use all these vouchers by. So in this case, I'm going to put December 31st, even 2014. In that case, we know that we have years to use these, and there's no concern on behalf of our business units to say, okay, hold on a second, we're not going to be able to use these. Why are we doing this Contra deal? So like I said, if there's an exact usage expiry date, or if there's an exact an expiry date, put it in there. If not, just put a date far enough in the future that it works. Cash portion, because this is a Contra deal, it's a trade deal, typically there's no cash portion. You'd put a 0 in here. Very rarely will there be a cash portion. Invoices exchanged, yes or no, just put yes. If there aren't invoices exchanged, put no. Very simple there. Value of airtime. The airtime on TVL or sports news needs to match the value of goods and services. This is also very important to remember. So the value of airtime, we can't have a value of airtime here of $850 because 850, the value goods and services are 1,000. It doesn't make sense. So the value of airtime needs to be $1,000, the same as the value of goods and services. If the goods and services were $1,500, this would have to be 1,500. It just cannot be different. So we're going to do 1,000. This means that this is 1,000, and that means at the same time the HST is 130. So commercial start date and end date. If we know the start date and end date, let's say a client wants to do this contra, they're going to be doing it for November 5th, 2012, and they're going to end December 2nd, 2012. You need to put these in there. That just shows this is when they're going to start their commercials. This is when they're going to end their commercials. Very importantly, another point, contra documents take a long time to get through the approval process. If your client wants to start on Monday and it's the Wednesday prior, chances are they're not going to get on air in that 3-day time span. Leave your contra document 3 to 4 weeks to go through the approval processes, because if people are on vacation, if people are sick, if people are busy, they're not going to get around to approving the contra form. And if there are any issues, it'll come back to you. Just give yourself enough time to hit the commercial start dates and end dates. Don't rush the contra form. Because the VPs, they don't like being rushed. So if your commercial start date is pushing time frames, push it back a couple weeks. In this case, I'm just going to say, okay, there's the 4-week runtime from the 5th to December 2nd. Airtime expiry date. So even though this client is going to be ending on December 2nd, I don't want to make the expiry date December 2nd. I want to push it far enough into the future that if there are client creative issues, if they want to push it back to Christmas time, for example, if we're full, what we want to do is make an airtime expiry date that's far enough in the future that your client is able to use it. So in this case, I'm going to do 12/29/2013. So that's the end of the last week in 2013, and that's what I'm going to put in. So your client has until the end of 2013 to run their creative. Whatever you think is an acceptable airtime expiry date, put it in there. For example, we've seen forms before where the airtime expiry date is before the commercial end date. So the airtime expiry date in this case can't be November 18th, 2012. That doesn't make any sense because your commercial end date is December 2nd, but the expiry date is the 18th of November. So make sure this is far enough in advance that, sorry about that, that you give your client enough time to move around. Grids, we're going to leave that blank right there. That's the only one we're going to leave blank. Traffic order attached, yes or no. If there's a traffic order attached, press yes. If not, press no. Commissionable, same thing. If it's commissionable, press yes. If not, say no. And then sales manager approve. These two, Sandro's name and Sandro's email, are already in there. He is the sales manager. He's going to be the first level of approval. We don't change this. You don't change it to your sales supervisor. You don't change any of this around. This both stays put. And as you can see, if you go into authorization, everything's been populated. The value of goods and services, value of airtime, and this is what all the levels of approval look at. They make sure everything here is solid. They make sure nothing's missing. They make sure that everything is in its place and everything matches up. So the values match up. The commercial start dates, end dates are okay. And on this point, the date gets populated. And at this point, what you want to do is press email to sales manager. It's very important that this button gets pushed. A lot of times previously, the reps will do the entire contra document, everything will look good, and instead of emailing it, they will email the file to Naveed or myself. Naveed and I, even though we wish we could, we can't email this to the sales manager for you. This is your contra, this is your contra form. You need to email it to the sales manager. So you need to make sure macros, the only reason this is clickable is because I've enabled macros at the very beginning of that warning letter. Once everything looks good, once you've triple checked your work, make sure everything's good, you click email to sales manager. This alert will come up, says you're about to send your contra approval form or contra form for approval. Are you sure everything has been filled out? Click yes to continue or no to cancel. So at this point you'll click yes. An email sign will come up, and then you'll keep moving down the chain, and you'll send it off. Because this is a mock file, sorry, I'm going to say no, I don't want to send it, but you're going to press yes if it's a true Contra form, and get it going down the approval chain. So I'm going to click no here. But that is how you do a Contra approval form. Fairly straightforward. Just please make sure every one of these is filled out. Make sure that everything matches up, because every time it doesn't match up, it comes to Naveed or myself. We're going to have to send it back, and it just takes a long time to get everything sorted out. So make sure you follow all these steps one by one. Take your time with it. Make sure it's a brand new Contra form from the public folders from Naveed's Contra template. Please use this version. Make sure it's a macros enabled file by enabling the macros, and you should be good to go. The second thing that we're going to look at really quickly is Contra usage forms. What we need to do, I'm actually going to close this off right here. So close, no. So Contra usage form, very important now. We've now been asked to submit a Contra usage form for every single bit of Contra that's been used. For Toronto reps, this doesn't include Barter Network, but for everybody else, if you use Contra that has gone through the Contra approval form, so golf for whatnot, for example, Thundering Waters, if you give a couple passes to a client, you need to fill out a Contra usage approval form. So what you want to do is go into this post. It says yesterday because Naveed just put it up yesterday, but and you want to follow his directions. I'm not going to get into it with too much detail. Just follow his directions exactly. Click Contra usage approval form, open it up. Once again, security warning, some active content has been disabled. You want to go to options, enable this content, okay, and now you're able to navigate properly. Once again, you want to go save as, save it properly, save it under the name you want to save it in, and what you want to do here is just fill out all the forms. So requested by, on the base Bercy, client name, let's just go with Joe's Restaurant. Let's say I gave Joe 2 golf passes to Thundering Waters, for example. So Contra amount, let's just say that was for $400. Once I put 400 and click away, these two will populate on their own. So HST is automatically built in. You don't have to touch any of those. It calculates it for you. Contra number, if there's Contra number, put it in there, and recipient and purpose. This is important to type in and make sure that you get it as detailed as possible. So I gave Joe, let's just say, 4 passes to Thundering Waters golf course for his company's 25th anniversary. This shows you that how many you gave, who you gave it to, what they were, and what the event was. If you want to get into more detail, you can say Joe spends $20K with TVL each year. That gives the approval process. It gives everyone who needs to approve this a great insight into who he is, what you gave it to him for, and how much he spends on TVL. You don't want to be vague in here, or else once again it'll be sent back to you. So once we have that done, we go down to the backup attached scanned receipt, and you need to fill this out. So passes and who the sales rep was, the company receipt, and this is what Naveed fills out. This is important, but you want to fill out the contract number, total value accounted for, client name, etc. So once this is all done, once you've filled out this request, in this case, unlike the Contra approval form, you do not want to submit for approval. You have to actually send this form by email to Naveed. And Naveed will then forward it for approval to Sandro. This has to be done by him because this is Naveed's backup attached scanned receipt. So this is what Naveed has to fill out. So you cannot do that on your own. If you submit it for approval, it'll go directly to the senior business manager. It has to go through Naveed first. So once again, you've saved it under My Documents. You want to then forward that document to Naveed. So unlike, once again, Contra, you submit for approval. This you don't. So hopefully that makes things a little bit more straightforward. Please, once again, follow the instructions that Naveed has typed out in each one of these. And once again, if you have any questions, please reach out. Thanks a lot.